I am super excited. We're going to bring Barry from Canistore up to the stage here, and he's going to take us through a historical journey. Canistore is one of these huge projects that I'm incredibly excited about on ICP, both in the way the project has evolved over time and in the way it takes something music that's like so personal and so important to people and applies real-world utility from the blockchain to music. And so I was actually at a live concert last week, and I came up with what I thought was a really great tweet, which is live music is an NFT for the soul. And I think the way that music can really connect people and then use the blockchain to deepen that is incredibly exciting. So I welcome our future music licensing overlords to the stage here. Barry, come on up here.
Thank you. Can you hear me good? Awesome. So I'm here to speak about licensing as a protocol, rights as tokens. Now, having my experience, this sounds absolutely amazing. It's like a lifeline. But to the majority of everybody else that hasn't had, musical history and experience, it just looks cool. So I thought today, let me take you on my journey so you could understand not just how Web3 is redefining intellectual property, but why. So I want to take you back to my childhood, maybe some of yours, if you're around my age. I was that child in front of the TV watching the music videos, Michael Jackson, Moonwalker. I was literally like 10 centimeters away from the TV screen, just in awe of what is happening, It was expression. It was freedom. My life was just about school, structure, but I've always been a creative, so naturally I've been resistant. So music was my escape, as it has been for many of you. And looking at these artists here up on the board, they were people that inspired me and many of you here today. Now, that took me into me starting my musical journey. When I reached to a teenager, I started writing. I wanted to be just like the people on the previous slide. And I had a great journey, The picture to the top left, I was on a tour of London with a rock band. I had actually written a verse for a singer called Kirsty Marie Day, and she brought me on tour with her. That was amazing. Live bands all across London, Camden, etc. And eventually, I went back to university to not just understand the art side and the creative side of the music industry, but also the science behind it. Now, at 19, I was offered my first record deal, and that was from an independent label in London. And that was my first interaction regarding the business side of the industry. I was a 19-year-old, I received this 14-page document, saying rules and regulations and what I can do, what I can't do. And, I was naive because the side where they own the copyrights and stuff like that, I was just looking at the check at the end. But what made me decline the deal was a page stating that they own my image. So, as a teenager, a young guy, I've got pride in myself. I was like, a label owning my face, I'm not too sure about that. So I declined the deal. And going back into the studio after, I then started to look at the industry through another light. I was looking at the artists I showed on the previous slide, and I started to ask myself, what deal are they in? What are their restrictions? Then I started doing a bit of research, and, information was coming my way of the battle a lot of these artists are having behind the scenes, some of which leaked out into the forefront of things, gave people mental health issues, etc. You know, you've got Prince on stage writing slave on his face. And I started to understand that, hey, this is not the freedom that I once thought it was. So I started to look at things, you know, from a different perspective. I still enjoyed music, still was creating it, but I also understood that it was a business that I would have to, you know, really be smart in order to navigate through. Then came the digital era. Now, it was amazing. To us, you had artists like Justin Bieber, just that, you know, at home on the guitar, uploading it to YouTube, becoming a viral sensation. Soulja Boy, you know, uploading his tracks, you know, onto the internet, becoming viral, making loads of money. And for us, we was like, yeah, this is freedom. This is now a more direct-to-consumer sort of situation, right? After a while, what you saw was the record labels, the actual businesses behind the music industry now getting involved in these platforms, right? You had executives like Leo Cohen coming into YouTube, taking up a situation. And that was the savior in the sense of the businesses that dominated the history now taking power again to our freedom. After a while, what you saw was these same platforms that were uploading our content and giving us that viral ability will now change their terms and conditions where they started owning our copyrights, right? That freedom that we had where we thought that we could post our content to our following and they would receive it. Algorithms came into place. Facebook, as you know, 90% plus comes from their advertising. So they reduced our reach and said, hey, pay us in order to receive that viral ability once again. And I put up this slide of the evolution of Instagram, you know, from logo to logo. And for me, that represents the advancement of their control, right? Then, when I thought all was lost, right, Definity came along. Now, I'll take you to a place where I was when I came across Definity. Now, I was fed up with the music industry. I had an option of managing a music venue, right? So I was still getting my musical endorphins, but I was running a music venue / nightclub in central London, right? So we were hosting parties, celebrity parties, we were flying in DJs, you know, live performances. I was quite engineered there for quite a few artists performing, so I was still connected to the industry. Then a friend of mine, Greg, to be exact, invited me to a seminar online, right, in 2020, June 30th. And I, for the first time, heard the Definity Foundation explaining about the tech that they created. And one thing that stood out to me was on-chain storage. Now, for a person like me, we store our intellectual property on hard drives and centralized servers, as I explained, and we are at risk of losing our intellectual property. Now to actually have the ability to store that intellectual property on chain was an amazing thing, as well as the canisters and the ability to, you know, compute 100% on chain at web speed. Now, what happened to me was after Dominic Williams was explaining about the canister technology, the first thing that came to my head was this law, right? Which is the UK's copyright law. And it states that upon creation, you are naturally the copyright holder. But the issue was that proving that copyright. Now, if you understand from my perspective, you'd understand that copyright law is just the theory, right? But the business aspect is publishing, and that's where you make your money. So we were still lost until we came up with Canistore, which gives you the ability to not just store your content on chain, but manage your copyrights independently, right? So from there, we understood that we have a future. We could actually build applications around this, bypassing the monopolization of the current Web 2 platforms, the YouTubes, the TikToks, the Facebooks, etc. Then I learned about a second step, which was the creation of a DAO. Now, not only do we have the functions to manage our copyrights, store our data, we also have the ability to create applications around that are community-owned. The problem that we have currently is that it's not a democracy. What YouTube says goes. What Facebook says goes. And that's regarding our data. Now we have the SNS, where these platforms are now community-owned and you have a say. And I looked to my YouTube friends and, sometimes YouTube may change something and you don't have a say. But you're earning your complete wage from YouTube. That's what pays you. That's what puts money in your fridge. But the moment that the platform changes an algorithm, it could infect your income. Now we have DAOs. Now we have the SNS on the internet computer. Now, with this on-chain storage, NFTs have now evolved, right? I hate talking about NFTs now because of how it looks, NFTs are associated with meme coins, Ponzi schemes. But now, with the internet computer, NFTs have real-life utility. And these are the things that are being built on the internet computer by companies like Canistore licensing content, like Origin, proving certification, digital, on-chain. And the future of NFTs now are solving real-life situations. We built Caniplay, right? Which now you use your NFT to broadcast your content worldwide. It's an NFT, 100% on-chain. It's not an image that may, increase in value. It's not about the value. It's about the utility and what it is. And this is what the internet computer brings. Now, the future is Web3. And I'd like to speak to you about how I perceive the future to be, in Web3 regarding the music industry and the entertainment industry. And I believe that our data and copyrights are a lot more protected now. And soon we'll see you just need to upload your intellectual property once. Just once. Currently, you have to upload a copy to each platform, right? Now you can upload your intellectual property once, your song once, then give access to other protocols to help you along your way. Give it access to a streaming platform, right? That's streamed for a period of time. Once you want to complete that, you don't need to delete it from YouTube, you just withdraw access. Now our data is protected. Now we can add things like GDPR compliance, privacy. We're taking copyright law to a whole nother level. As you know, copyright laws and most laws within, the industry are behind technology. So right now with Web3 and the future, we're actually taking it ahead. My name is Paisley. Thank you very much for your time.